So now they lumped him in there, they called him like the I've got a picture of you with a group of other people on the website. Yeah, you're like at a church, I don't know if you came to them, but like you're in a group of like 20 people.
At least they didn't superimpose the facial hair configuration.
Right?
I've never been in a little. You see, you saw.
Yeah, they're pulling out Nebraska.
Pulling out, yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty interesting.
Well, the question I have with that is, if you need the ID, like the law
Yeah.
says.
Yeah.
Literally. It's. So like. You plan on it. And then so the question would be, if you need ID, the other one's clear, so you need ID for it, right?
Well, I don't know how that's fun. It's getting around.
It's pretty crazy, you know, because when I was a teenager, you had to like sneak up.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't even imagine, I don't have children, so like, I would not have children, so.
Yeah.
That'll be my view.
One day we get that. There you go. I know.
There you go.
I'll see you later.
I thank both.
Good point.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. It's hot.
NBC likes it.
It's crazy.
Let's get around. Let's see. That's all right.
Sundays was nice.
Good.
Well, it was. All right.
I just heard my name down there. So. I thought it was chilly out here.
It's like Omaha's getting pounded with a bunch of hail right now.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
All right, good evening, everybody. Time is 6:30, so we'll go ahead and open up public comment. Views expressed by individuals during public comment do not necessarily reflect the views of the city of Fremont, have not been verified for accuracy by the city. As a reminder, the city council and staff are not permitted to respond to comments or questions during the public comment period in accordance with Fremont Municipal Code Section -2103. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person, shall not contain topics included on this evening's agenda. So if you are here and wish to speak, we have a sign-up sheet up front. Please sign in. There's also comment cards over on the side table over there. We'll begin. Brad Yerger.
Brad Yerger, 2318 East Fifth Street. Thanks for taking public comment tonight. Wanted to raise a couple of topics for your consideration that are noteworthy, I think. The first one that I wanted to address has to do with the old Rawhide ditch and the Fifth Street ditch that runs along Claremore from 16th Street south and then east along Fifth Street to Luther and then Luther towards the power plant, et cetera. For those that live on the Claremore Street, I know this has been raised by councilmen in the past. those folks have a really difficult time with the weed control that's in that ditch because it was half filled. And so its water standing doesn't drain and weeds grow, so they can't really mow it effectively with mowers. Really has to be cut with weed whackers. And so it's kind of unsightly at times, and I know that they've complained about it. The reason that I'm bringing it up tonight is that I think last year the city was engaged in doing some clean out of the Fifth Street ditch from Claremore headed eastbound, but they stopped around Myers Street or before they got to Myers Street. And since then, the ditch that runs further east has now become something that looks like the Florida Everglades. It's got vegetation that's almost as tall or taller than the bank high. You can see it out of your house. So for a free-flowing water ditch, that's really not too good. And there's overgrowth growing back into the areas that were cleaned out further west towards Claremore as well. I didn't drive by the Luther Street portion of that tonight, but that's been in bad shape. I think that they might have been working on that, but it is something that needs to be attended to for good, proper drainage and for maintenance. So I would ask that maybe the city could take a look at what they could do to kill the vegetation that's growing in those particular areas. The other topic that I wanted to raise tonight has to do with school safety. In particular, I want to address the issues around Howard School, which is the area in which I live. And there were discussions about this a while back with regards to the speed limits, and we lowered the speed limits. And now with the school being relocated and construction going on and construction still going on, when school opens, that may or may not be fully completed. And as a result, the sidewalk accesses may be difficult. I'm sure children were using the Howard Street accesses before. Now they may have to use Garden City Street accesses. That intersection at Garden City and First Street has been a problem reported by the residents in the area for some time because there's no control there for student walkways or any kind of a signal or anything like that for school safety. And so they've always been concerned there. The crossing area is down closer to Howard Street. There's a flashing signal there. It's not on the corner. But even there, it's been accident prone, and that's why we've lowered the speed limit in the past. I would ask that you would have your folks take a look at whether or not, and this is probably a school board issue if they haven't raised it, but as a citizen and being concerned about student safety, it would be good to take a look at the traffic patterns that are being used there for the sidewalks, et cetera, for the school as it's now been relocated. Appreciate your taking a look. Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yep. Sounds good to me.
Right here, right here, Ron.
Right now, planning on it. but
If you're not here, we'll go, it'll be 1:30.
taking a little while, so it kind of depends on her.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mr. Ron Block, 1500 West Military in Fremont. First thing I want to say is that it brings me no pleasure to bring these issues up, as I was asked to do so, because several other people are afraid to come up here and make these issues known. People are going to rename the Permits and Inspection Department. We're going to call it the Revenue Prevention Department. I was never good at math, but I'm sure you all understand this. Property improvements equal higher value. Higher value equals more tax revenue. Property improvements equals more workers and more payroll. More payroll equals more tax revenue. We can't dispute those facts. We can't. There's two words that none of us want to hear: discrimination and harassment. It took me 10 months to get my building permit for a square box, 60 by 200, same as the other 10 I have built. At first, my dirt contractor didn't get the proper permit to raise the ground to the proper level. That's probably my fault. After that, it was one harassment action after another. Finally, after the 6th time out of about 20 trips to that 3rd floor, I asked for something in writing. Mark Bird finally gave me 2 things to do that requested more professional work and 30 more days of delay. This went on 3 more times, taking 60 days of professional work and more high-dollar expense. I gave them what they wanted, and they said it would take 15 days to review. Come on. Reviewing 3 little items takes 15 days. That's unacceptable. This went on 3 more times. I would go up there and they would huddle up behind closed doors and come up with more items. One of the last items was the fire marshal permit, which I never got before. They handed me the fire marshal permit. I sent it in. After 30 days of no response, I finally got a hold of somebody after 5 attempts, and they said, "Do you have a copy of what you sent us?" I replied, "Yes." After a few days, I called again. "Did you get my application?" He replied, "No." I sent it in again. And he stated, "Where did you get this form?" I said, "The Planning Commission gave it to me." He started to laugh. I said, "This isn't funny. I'm not happy." He said, "We haven't used this form since 2018. It's evident planning doesn't even know what forms to give people." As I stated in the last city council meeting, I surveyed 14 different contractors. 13 had nothing good to say about some of the people on 3rd floor, not all of them. And lastly, if I can't say anything good and positive of the 14th person, I won't say anything good at all. This isn't how we grow Fremont. The 3rd floor is the front door to what everybody wants to expand and invest in our community. Contractors are going to Arlington to build, and ones like my next door neighbor wish he would have never started his project. Someone needs to make some changes up there and regain some integrity. Take those doors off that hide all but the front desk. People need to leave that 3rd floor with a positive attitude, not in disgust. It is up to you city officials that passed these building codes in 2018 to start all over and make them user-friendly, as no one will say what city we adopted this from. Maybe New York or LA, but this isn't New York or LA. Something is really wrong up there. Justin left for the 2nd time. Something's wrong. Mark said on the radio months ago, he will get these items on one piece of paper to make it more easy to work with. To my knowledge, that too has not happened for months. If they are so busy behind closed doors, maybe all day Saturday work is required. I'll bet they get caught up in no time. In closing, I'm speaking for many who have to work with these people. So don't handcuff me, as I'm just a messenger. Thank you.
Steve Ray, 1445 North Irving, Fremont. I'm here to ask the council to consider doing something about rental property in this town. There's some good landlords. There's a lot more slumlords in this town. There's a couple fourplexes over in my neighborhood. There were little kids living there. There's mold in the walls. The roof leaked, windows wouldn't stay shut. It went on for a number of years. And I asked the people that lived there one time why they didn't move. And they said, well, we really can't afford to move anywhere else. And if we make the landlord say anything about it, oh, this is a health problem, they say, well, if you don't like it, move out or we'll charge more rent, because if we fix it, it's going to cost us. We're pretty worried about making sure children get food and stuff during the summertime. But for the health and safety of the children, there's a lot of buildings in this town that need to be upgraded. And it's kind of the same old thing. I've talked to different people who live in some of the rentals, and it's like, if we ask the landlord to do anything, it's like, oh, they're going to raise the rent again. And I can't afford to pay more rent. And the landlord's been collecting rent for years. There's a property next to me that the roof leaks. They got, I forget what you call it. It's not clear cellophane. It's a colored one over the windows. He never takes it off. I asked him why. He said, well, the windows are so bad. Air comes through them all the time. He gets up on the roof in the wintertime. It's a 2-story house. He gets up on the roof in the wintertime to push the snow off because it leaks down in there. And I know the landlord, and he's been told he doesn't do anything about it. I'd like to see the city, they have all these codes to get things built. I'd like to see the city come up with some kind of inspection when property turns over, that they are inspected when a new renter comes in at least, or something, to make sure these properties are being taken care of. There's no excuse for people to have to live, a lower income people especially, have to live in that kind of squalor. It's just unacceptable, and it's bad for the city. And there are some good landlords. The one fourplex that I was talking about have just been bought, and that man has spent lots and lots of money to fix them up. I don't know if he raised the rent. There's still 2 renters there that were there before. So if he did, it must be acceptable to them yet. But it's just something that's been ongoing. Omaha, we had a big thing on one of the people in Omaha. One of the landlords that's rents property in Fremont here was in the Omaha news about all this stuff, and they didn't really say anything about what he'd do to fix it. It's an ongoing problem, so I'd like you to look into doing something.
Oh, these are neighbors. I don't.
Oh, it's not.
This is a fourplex.
This isn't a fourplex. That's not a two-story. So,
Sorry. I haven't spoken to him. I don't even know. I did notice, I believe it was this one, going in having surgery yesterday. He broke his arm, apparently something didn't go right with that. Yes. Yeah, I think it was a compound fracture, both bones in his arm. Right? They ended up having to go back in and do something. And this happened just a week or two ago. And then they go back yesterday to do something. Yeah. His wife, ex-wife, posted something up there on Facebook about it, about him being in the hospital. I don't know what hospital, but
boys and broken arms.
Yeah.
I never got any.
Okay, Deb.
It's pretty tough though, when they start going through the skin.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah. Start infected bone, yeah, bigger problems.
Mhm.
I never broke any.
It's just more dry.
Apparently. Yeah, put a little more effort into that.
My son broke his arm, both bones. He was at daycare and he fell and broke both bones. So they met me at the ER. And they were asking me, did he have a helmet? I was like, only gonna help his arm. I mean, come on.
You know.
Okay, good evening, everybody. We'll go ahead and close public comment. Time is 7 o'clock. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll go ahead and open up the Community Development Agency meeting and call it to order. Again, the time is 7 o'clock. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the back wall next to the agendas. We'll have roll call.
Please vote for roll call.
Okay, go ahead.
You.
Should I push and hold again?
I need a new button.
Time for those council updates.
Hey, please try. Okay, I think we're working.
There we go.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 1 is Resolution 2024-007 to approve the Third Amendment to RD Leasing Redevelopment Agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the CDA, Travis Shaycott, City Attorney. This is, you may recall, RD Leasing, we did the certificate of completion on the second phase of the project. This is for the third phase of the project. It's a little bit smaller, kind of rounding out the third phase. And this amends the redevelopment agreement from back in September of 2020. Similar to the Second Amendment, this just changes the financial accounting to compensate for the size of the third phase. This one's much smaller than the last one. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions for legal? Anybody here to speak on this item? Any additional comments from council on this? If there are none, I would take a motion. Councilman Jensen.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-007.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Would take a motion to adjourn the Community Development Agency meeting. Councilman Sukram.
Make that motion.
Councilman Horner. Also. Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
We are adjourned. Go ahead and open up the city council regular meeting. The time is 7:03. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the back wall next to the agendas. This time we'll have a roll call for the city council meeting.
7 council members are present, Mayor.
All right, next is mayor's comments, and we have our service awards for June, so I'm going to go ahead and come up front to do those presentations. All right, we have this evening 5 service awards for June. First, we have Ashley Lockhart, 5 years of service. Ashley's been with the Department of Utilities since 2019 as a custodian. We have Candace Gord, 25 years of service. Candace started with the city of Fremont as a parking control officer in 1999 and then transferred to become a transfer station cashier in 2013. We have Melissa Ball, 15 years of service. Melissa started with the city of Fremont in 2009 as a parking control officer, which was reclassified as code enforcement assistant. And in 2021, Melissa became a community service officer. And Melissa is here with us to come up and to receive your service award, Melissa. Thank you for 15 years. All right, next we have 2 45 years of service. First, we have Karen Duncan. Karen started with the Department of Utilities in 1979 as a customer billing assistant. And in 2000, Karen was promoted to office services supervisor. She then took the position of customer services assistant in 2011. Then in 2013, she became a customer billing assistant again. Karen has since been promoted to customer services lead as of 2017. Let's give a round of applause for Karen Duncan.
We're good.
Last but not least, we have Jeff Shanahan, 45 years of service. Jeff started with the Department of Utilities in 1979 as an electrician. In 1999, he moved to instrument and control technician. Jeff was promoted to senior instrument and controls technician in 2001. In 2003, Jeff was promoted to power plant electrical supervisor, and then to assistant power plant superintendent in 2011. In 2013, Jeff was then promoted to power plant superintendent, which led him to his current position as utility general manager in 2022. Let's recognize Jeff Shanahan. It's definitely not very often where we have that amount of longevity in the community, and it is to be commended. And thank you very, very much to all the recipients for June and all your hard work. It's greatly appreciated. Okay, the other thing in my comments I would like to mention is we have a member, 2019 graduate of Fremont High School, who then went on to Kearney. His name is Wes Ferguson, who will be competing in the Olympic trials on Thursday evening. Wes is a very decorated athlete. He runs the 800. He was a 5-time national champion in college. He is a 9-time All-American, which is a Kearney record. And he recently competed post-graduation in a kind of the New York City Track and Field Grand Prix, which is with worldwide participants, finishing as the top U.S. athlete. And so we need to be cheering on Wes as he competes Thursday in the Olympic trials. The first round is Thursday, and then the next round is Friday. And then the finals are on Sunday. So we all need to be cheering him on, and hopefully we could be great to have some great news if he qualifies. It'd be really something special. But what an amazing accomplishment to get this far. I just wanted to recognize that great achievement. So let's cheer on Wes Ferguson this week. That's all for my comments, and we'll go ahead and move on to item 1 on the agenda is a motion to adopt the current agenda for the June 25th, 2024 regular meeting. Councilwoman Ganem.
Move that we adopt the current agenda for the June 25th, 2024 regular meeting.
Councilman Von Baeren.
I'll second that.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Moving on to appointments. We have a motion to appoint Ethan Hergert as a firefighter EMT per the mayor recommendation. It is my pleasure tonight to bring forward Ethan Hergert as a new firefighter EMT with the city of Fremont. Ethan has completed all of his requirements, has gone through the Civil Service Commission. Again, it's a pleasure to have him brought forward tonight as a new firefighter. I take any questions. I take a motion to approve Ethan Hergert as a new firefighter EMT in the city of Fremont. Councilman Sukram.
I'll make that motion to appoint Ethan Hergert as a firefighter EMT per mayor's recommendation.
Councilwoman Ganem.
I second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
It is approved. Ethan is here with members of his family. Would you please stand so we can recognize you and welcome you to the city of Fremont? All right, we'll move on to item 3 is a motion to consent to the mayor's appointments of Mitch Schneringer and Stan Darling to the Airport Advisory Committee. It is great to be able to bring forward these 2 appointments to the Airport Advisory Committee. They included backup in the packet, which kind of outlines their experience, and excited that they're willing to volunteer on this board. So I take any questions from the council on this item. Councilman Horner.
No, Mayor, if there are no questions, I was just going to make the motion to consent to the mayor's appointments of Mitch and Stan to the Airport Advisory Committee.
Councilwoman Lathrop.
I'll second that.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 4 is a public hearings, a resolution 2024-153 authorizing the mayor to sign documents for the Fremont Housing Authority relating to environmental review. This time we'll have staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a report, environmental report for the Fremont Housing Authority. It's done every 5 years to maintain their capital fund program for the federal government. The Northeast Nebraska Economic Development District conducted the report. Following the report, there's a 15-day comment period by which you would submit comments to the Housing Authority at 2510 North Clarkson. And I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Tyler? I'll now open the public hearing. Anybody here to speak on this item? Seeing no comments, I'll close the public hearing. Are there any additional comments from council on this? Councilman Horner.
No, Mayor, again, if there are no additional comments, I would like to make a motion that we approve resolution 2024-153 authorizing the mayor to sign the documents for the Fremont Housing Authority relating to the environmental review.
Councilman Jensen.
And I will second that.
Cast your votes.
The motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Moving on to the consent agenda, all items in the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda by council or staff? Any items from the public to be removed?
Ray Tuff 323 West 5th. Can we remove item number 7, please?
Are there any other items? We'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 5, 6, 8 through 11. Councilwoman Ganem.
I move the consent agenda as spoken.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 7 is to receive the May 2024 animal reports. Are there any staff report on this issue?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Jody Sanders, City Administrator. You have before you tonight the May 2024 animal reports as provided by Forever Homes.
Any questions for staff? Any comments from the public on this?
Ray Tuff, 323 West Fifth. Basically pertaining to this report, I just wanted to remind you guys again that I appreciate all the work that's being put into this from both Forever and the city side. And you know, just remind you that it's your job to protect the citizens. You're working for us, and it's basically like a mediator between the two. But just in this specific report, we have Luna and 3 puppies that come in on law enforcement hold, then go to relinquished by owner, then goes to adopted after 5 seconds, then listed in the in custody report as fostered. These reports should be bringing up a lot of questions if you guys are reading them. Why are we, you know, where and when are we holding cats for 5 days if they're injured? I mean, that's the type of stuff that these reports tell you. It's very nice to know, you know, that there's dogs that was transferred after 3 years, but holding a dog for 2 days, then euthanized for its behavior after a bite. I did speak to Martha about that. She stated that the owner wanted the dog to be euthanized, and that they sent in the remains for rabies testing. That is, you can't do that, you know. Remains cannot be tested for rabies. So I just want you guys to be aware of the things that these reports do tell you, and you should be able to have a lot of questions if you're reading them. So I just encourage you to do so that we can make any changes that are needed when the contract comes up for renewal in just a couple months. Thank you.
Is there anybody else here to speak on this?
Good evening, Martha Bang, 340 West 21st Street, Fremont. I'm the president at Forever Homes. I believe the dog's name was Potter that was euthanized, and it is absolutely legal to euthanize a dog when it is on bite hold, as long as you send its remains in for rabies testing. The veterinarian sends those remains in for testing to the university. The university performs the test and then notifies any parties that had been bitten by that animal. Are there any other questions I can answer for council at this time? Luna and puppies is a long story, and I think it would go over time, so.
Does the council have questions? Councilman Jensen?
Yeah, I just have a question. You said euthanized. I'm assuming if you're sending remains in to be tested, lab tested, I'm assuming you're not sending ashes, you're sending a body. Is that correct? Or?
No, the head is removed and the brain is tested.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Thank you.
Anybody else here to speak on these reports? Councilwoman Ganem.
Just a quick comment. These reports are so detailed, and we get them every month. And it was a big change from not having any reports previously with the previous persons we had contracted with. So these are very detailed, and we're still learning how to read them.
Any additional comments from council? Take a motion to receive the May reports. Councilman Jensen,
I'll make that motion.
Councilman Horner,
I'll second.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Moving on to new business is item 12, resolution 2024-157, authorizing the mayor to sign the Fremont Area Chamber of Commerce Services Agreement renewal.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Jody Sanders, City Administrator. We've brought forward a professional services agreement with the Fremont Area Chamber of Commerce. We had a service contract with them for many years. Staff did sit down with the executive director, discussed all the services that the chamber provides to the city. And the city is making a bit of a more renewed effort to actually use those services more robustly. We actually have the CEO of the Fremont Area Chamber, Brenda Wilberding, here, and I'll let her visit a little bit more about the services that they're providing us.
Brenda Wilberding, 1335 Watson Street here in Fremont. I'm the president CEO for the Fremont Area Chamber of Commerce. There are quite a few different things that we can offer to individuals and businesses in the Fremont community. Some of the things that we really sat down and discussed that we felt like the city could benefit from and the citizens of Fremont. Number one, it's a great way to tell your story, tell the story of what Fremont's doing, tell the story of the things that are happening here. We have an outreach to 2,000 different members and different organizations with a total reach of 10,000 people. So when Parks and Rec goes to talk about the things that they are doing, that is an audience that we are reaching through the chamber. We also really help to enhance the city administration's relationship to Fremont business community through increased communications and providing public events like ribbon cuttings. We were here for the Fremont Transit program. So we are just an extension to help with your marketing networking events. You heard earlier, the Beer Fest, we do events like that. We recognize for businesses in Fremont for the good things that they're doing. But we really have the opportunity to highlight city happenings. So we talked about that. We talked about posting jobs. So anytime that there is a city job that is open, it is free for you to utilize our job board with this service agreement. And then also you guys receive an online listing with updated features. So it actually makes everybody within the city searchable for the public if they go to the chamber's website. So many things that we can offer to you. We did discuss the best way for your staff to be able to utilize these benefits and make sure that you're using them to the best of your abilities, so you're getting the most out of them as well. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Councilman McGann. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here to speak on this item? Any additional comments from council? I just would like to say I appreciate all the efforts of the Fremont Area Chamber. We have a very, very strong chamber in Fremont, and really helps our community get involved and celebrate happenings with ribbon cuttings and with communication. And so I just appreciate all the efforts that our chamber does to really bring our community together. So, Councilman Horner.
Well, you kind of stole the thunder there. You know, I'm just echo that. I attend a lot of the chamber events when I can. I think it shows a very vibrant and strong community, and I think the chamber facilitates a lot of that exchange within the business community, and I think that's very important. I also am just going to stick my neck out and go, I think we got a heck of a deal on this contract. So, you know, thank you, chamber. We appreciate it.
Councilwoman Lathrop.
I was at the ribbon cutting this morning, and I was speaking with a gentleman from Omaha, and he said he loves coming over to Fremont because the chamber has wonderful events, and there's so much support shown. So thank you for all of that.
No other comments. I would take a motion. Councilman Jensen.
Yeah, one comment, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-157.
Councilman Dinkins.
I'll second that.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 13 is a motion authorizing a special designated license local recommendation for an outdoor event, Ilgen Fritz parking lot by Katie Sidno LLC, doing business as The Door for John C. Fremont Days. Staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is for a beer garden on July 12th and 13th. Just a little bit of background on this. We have approved the recent guide and event agreement. And so in that, we kind of set an ending time for that downtown area for events of 11 p.m. This is kind of unique in that John C. Fremont Days received permission to use the property prior to the adoption of that policy. I brought this forward just to bring your attention that they are asking for the event to go until 1 a.m. And so in that permit guide application, it says City Council would, consider requests beyond that 11 o'clock p.m. And so that's why this item's before you tonight. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for our clerk? Councilman Von Baer.
Yeah, just with some of our experiences with events, what provisions have been made for noise control?
So in speaking with the applicant, I think there maybe was some flexibility on, when music would be played, but the comment was that, not having it till 1 a.m. would be difficult. And so there may be some flexibility on having, the music and volumes, addressed after 11 p.m. But I think they're here if you want to ask that question to them too. So.
I'm Dave Cephas.
I'm Brent Scher, the other owner of the bar. We spoke with the old owners and they said the music did stop at midnight, even though the beer garden is still open till 1. That allows everybody to get out and go. So we're just asking to go till midnight.
Bands go till midnight and beer sales stop at 1. Gives everybody a chance to clear out within that hour.
Councilman Von Baer, do you have any additional questions?
Well, yeah, no, I'm just trying to just grasp this because we've recently just had noise complaints from another bar. And so noise gets to be a real concern with citizens, and we're also extending this one to 1 o'clock. So I think it puts an extra burden on you to manage in some way. I'm not sure 1 o'clock is an appropriate hour to end it, but I think the noise control, we have ordinances, and I think Chief Elliott has been pretty proactive with this group as far as how to address those. But I think in deference to our downtown and nearby neighbors, that needs to be managed very closely. So I'd just like to understand.
And we have no problem with bands at midnight. That's what allows us. So from the
Councilman Jensen.
Yeah, I guess that was where I was going with too, is that issues we had before, we were told, well, we're going to stay there until 2 so we can get everybody out. Well, they stayed and played until 2. So that's, I just want to make sure that's not going to happen again.
I can promise I already paid them till midnight, so that's as far as.
That should take care of that. That shouldn't. Thank you.
Councilwoman Gannon.
No, a lot of my questions have been answered. So thank you for stopping at midnight, Maine. And this was before we approved any time. I just want to make sure we're consistent in what we're doing. So if it applies, we said 11 o'clock, I don't want to be here each time someone applies for an activity, say we want to go to 12, we want to go to 1, and then we make those decisions. This was done before our guidelines have been put in place, and so thank you for addressing the noise issue. And most bars don't close until 1 downtown as it is, as I understand, correct? Okay. Then I'd have no problem at this point. Really, any other questions? You've answered them.
Councilman Horner.
I just want to say thanks for coming in, guys. It's very helpful whenever something like this is on. And also thanks for doing it. We appreciate that too. It's a fun weekend, and you guys will definitely be added to it. So thank you.
We're realizing how much work it is.
Okay. Any additional comments from council or questions for the applicant here? Okay. Thank you. Are there any additional comments from the public?
Barry Reeker, president of John C. Fremont Days. I would just like to say that the issues that have come up prior to this was usually not John C. Fremont Days. And I understand the need for that. I look forward to working with these fine gentlemen. Katie said no LLC is going to do a fine job down there. I've had several conversations with Brent, and I just wanted to speak on their behalf, saying that I welcome them and I hope everything goes well for them.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Any additional comments from council? If there are none, I'd take a motion. Councilman Warner.
I would like to make a motion that we authorize the special designated license local recommendation for an outdoor event in the parking lot by Katie said no LLC.
Councilman Sugrum.
I will second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 14 is a Councilmember Von Baron discussion item of the animal control reports, and I'll turn it over to Councilmember Von Baron, and the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor. Just for background, probably time always goes faster than I remember, but something like a year and a half ago, there was a group of us that just started working through Fremont's animal ordinances informally. We took it upon ourselves. We have 2 council members, we have 1 person from the public, and we have 1 of the CSOs from the police department. And so we've been working through one of the products that you saw. That was the dangerous dog ordinance updates, some things that the police needed to enforce and reinforce ordinances. And so we've been working our way, not just on this issue, but we've been working through the whole body of Fremont ordinances. There was a group a couple of years ago that was, I believe it was the mayor's committee. It was quite a formal group that spent a lot of time going through ordinances. And the section that we got to about a week ago Monday was dealing with a recommendation that Fremont establish an animal control and sheltering oversight committee. And that responsibility of that committee, that was never brought to council. That was in some of the work that had been proposed but had not yet come. So that committee was proposed earlier because of just trying to understand some of the things that were going on, and many of you are aware of the history of sheltering here in Fremont. So they were trying to get more clarity on what was actually going on and happening. And finally, they came down with the recommendation that we establish this committee, which would be tasked with overseeing the shelter, the functions, the reporting, basic accounting management. I mean, it would be pretty much an all-encompassing. So as we got into the discussion, probably the first item that came up most prominently was just simply, okay, so how do we understand the animal reports? And Councilwoman Ganem is exactly right. There's a lot of detail, and it was an interesting discussion because the longer we talked, the more we realized none of us understood it. We were trying to sort through, and so because this has gone on so many years, it's obvious that it's just not a simple thing. It's not a one-person thing. It's something that's probably pretty complex, and I certainly don't understand it. And given the public interest we had in it, we thought it would just be productive to just have at least start an open discussion. And I have no expectation tonight that we'll probably get much solved. I think the issue tonight is because this has gone on so long, to help us all just kind of get to a level playing field. I have some questions, for example. I think one of the questions, I have been impressed with the number of functions that Forever Home manages on a day-to-day basis. They manage intake, they manage transfers from other shelters, they manage transfers to, I should say, to and from other shelters. Adoptions, I mean, the array of activity that goes on down there is active on a given day. And one of the questions I certainly have is, I'm not sure how you would structure a software program to reflect all those activities. So we may find out that it's we need to, I don't know what we need to find out. That's why I'm here. I think that's why it's good to have discussion. My only point is that this discussion is meant primarily to do what we can. We would like to avoid another oversight committee. If there's a way to help work through this, to give Forever Homes the tools or whatever help that is needed, that's the best course for all of us. And some of the other things that have been brought up with the shelter over the years, I think may begin to be answered if we can start truly understanding and get that reporting to where it needs to be. So it's what I'd ask for is just an open discussion. I don't expect we need to take a lot of time, but I think will give us all a common understanding and help us introduce that. So Martha, I don't know if you want to lead off, or Jody, or however you'd like to manage this.
I would like to thank Martha for coming and being here tonight to discuss the reports. She has sat down with the chief and myself, and I think Kelly as well, going through the reports in a way that we can understand. And she came to council in March and explained the ins and the outs when she basically brought us kind of up to, she wasn't double checking the ending, kind of the ending balance and then the beginning balance the following month. And she's gone through and explained those and showed those as reconciling items. For example, if a pet comes in after a certain time on Friday, the last day of the month, that animal doesn't actually get entered into their system until the following month. But of course, the pet was there on the 30th. So if she runs a report that says I need everything through June 30th, that pet isn't going to appear because as far as the system's concerned, the pet was entered in July. And so there's a little bit of a disconnect there, and it's just a timing issue that I don't think that we're going to be able to solve. But I'll let Martha speak for herself in terms of the actual details on the report. But I did want to thank her for coming tonight.
Good evening. Martha Bang, 340 West 21st Street. I'm the president at Forever Home. So I can understand why everyone thinks that, animals come in, animals go out, shouldn't be that hard to track. A lot of our data entry initially when an animal comes in is done by staff. When an animal is returned to owner directly from the facility, that data entry is done by staff. Transfers out, adoptions out, fosters going out. Those transactions are entered by volunteers, and we have multiple volunteers that handle most of that end of the administrative type thing. We simply do not have money in our budget to hire an administrator person. And quite honestly, that wouldn't keep a person busy full-time anyway. So to give you an example of what Jody was trying to describe. So we transferred in a mama cat and 5 kittens from the Blair Animal Shelter last month. They had like, I don't know, 11 mamas and kittens, and we had a foster available. So that kind of happened outside of staff. I completed the paperwork that staff needs to enter that because I don't enter things because I don't want to screw it up. So I left that paperwork for staff to enter. That entry was made as one entry, Blair mom and 5 kittens, not Blair mom, kitten 1, kitten 2, kitten 3, kitten 4. So I asked them when we started working on our May reports after June 1st, hey, can you guys go ahead and make sure that that gets fixed? It's not entered correctly. Even though backtracking, we entered those additional 5 kittens as intakes on May, whatever it was, that entry was not made till June, whatever it was. So when you ask the system to pull May 1st through 31st, because they weren't entered until after June 1st, they don't come out. So you will see at the end of most of the in custody report, there will be a whole bunch of exceptions. So when we pull those initial reports, we leave them as organic as possible. We leave the information that is pulling out of the system and dumping it into Excel. And then we have to work forwards into this month and backwards into last month to make sure that the counts come out correctly. So that's what all those exceptions are that you'll see. It's worse than rocket science. It's worse than brain surgery. Like, I want to beat my head against the wall every month when we have to do that. Just being honest.
Martha, is there an option for my simple mind?
Yep.
It's easy sitting here because
Yep.
I'm not doing your job.
I know. I would like it
It's
to be
my
simple. It is
it's
not.
My simple mind. Is it possible some of this could be remedied by just a consistent 6 o'clock last day of the month, everything gets entered?
I wish.
Update? I'm sorry?
I wish.
No, I'm just.
Yeah, I have thought through that in theory. Please understand that I and the board ask the staff to make sure that the care of the animals is of utmost importance. Paperwork, while important, is not their first priority. Okay? Animals coming in, absolutely, think the CSOs bring paperwork in with them when there's animals they're bringing in. When it's an animal being brought in by a citizen, there is paperwork that's completed, but it doesn't, time doesn't stop. We don't sit down and just enter right then. It usually waits until that evening. If there's time left in the staff shift to enter that, maybe they work on it a little bit the next day when they come in. Time management is difficult. It's really fast paced down at our facility. So I have thought through that suggestion. I guess the only thing that I could think of that we could try differently is to give the staff entering and the volunteers maybe the first 5 days of the month, but then that means that nothing that comes in the 1st through the 5th gets entered. Like, it would give them 5 days to catch up and reconcile anything that wasn't entered correctly. Or, I'll even find, one of the other things I found this month was an animal was returned to owner, but when I pulled up the record in the system, it was a date in the future. Like, how did that happen?
Well, and I don't want to dominate this, but that leads to the second question. Do you have the software? If you're working with a software program that won't handle it, obviously that's going to be a limitation. You can't do anything about it. Will your software program handle the reporting that needs to be done, the specificity that you need?
That's kind of what it's designed for, but it doesn't work great. And I don't think, and I honestly don't, it's one of the top 5, so I don't think any of them are going to operate any differently. We switched to this Pet Establish software, and I couldn't tell you when that was. It was a while ago. We looked at several different ones, and this is the one we chose. to be the best functioning for us. But we weren't, I mean, we didn't have to provide animal control reports to the city then either.
Okay. I'll let somebody else speak.
Councilman Horner.
Yeah, you know, I just wanted to understand the relationship, and I'm glad you mentioned it because you talked about the care of the animals. And Jake's bringing that up because when I'm sitting there and I'm listening to it, I'm looking at a bunch of numbers and I'm going, wait a second, these are all animals that are coming in there. And in a sense, I get it. I suppose we're getting that the city is getting billed off the report. My comment on that is, and the accountant and Jody's not going to like to hear this, but my comment, my thoughts on that is that if it's not in May, it's going to be in June, and so it's going to catch up. And so, in your opinion, as someone running this, is what I'm hearing from people, is this affecting the care of animals?
I mean,
Or are we talking about input on forms?
yeah, we're talking about input on forms, and we're talking about, you know, data entry is what you pull out is only as good as what you put in. I mean, I guess when I worked my first job, data entry was what I did. And, you know, most of our staff don't come from an office type background. So, you know, while I've tried to do my absolute best, to educate them on what needs to be entered. And it seems like we're always trying to make shifts to fix these types of things so that we aren't having to spend hours and hours every month between like 3 of us, making sure that what comes to the city is absolutely accurate. So we're still working through some of those things with our senior staff that does the initial entry and the return to owner entry. I wish it was easy. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm just trying to understand the
Yeah.
connection between the report and the care of the animals. And what I'm hearing is this is paperwork. You're still taking care of the animals, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
You know, and I would invite you, anytime you get a question from one of the constituents in your ward about something, I am always happy to answer those. I don't have a paid position with Forever Home. I have my own job that I go do and things like that. So, I mean, you're welcome to reach out in any fashion you like. And I will definitely get an answer to you if there's something specific I can help you with. I feel like a lot of times, you know, when I hear things, it almost insinuates to me that there are insinuations being made. Like, whatever you got to say, just ask. I'm happy to answer those. we don't have anything to hide. You know, just like with Potter being euthanized, like you asked the question, and while my answer was blunt, it was what it is.
Well, thanks for coming in and answering the
Yeah,
question. I suppose
anytime.
euthanization is blunt, so it probably requires a blunt
Unfortunately,
answer.
it is. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I don't, Councilman Van Buren, does that kind of?
I was just looking for an overview. And
Yeah.
I think given, as I said, because this precedes you. So,
I know.
And what we were trying to accomplish as we and even Officer Steamer was trying to help us understand, and we saw our tail coming into view about the third time in that discussion.
Sure.
And we thought, you know, this is probably a good time to just sit down and because there've been questions from the public and all of that. It's a good time to just ask those questions. So
I would encourage any member of the public with a question to just come directly to the source. I mean, you can also have a conversation with your council member about what your conversation may be with me or another member of staff about a situation. When we submitted all of the audited revised reports in March, we did just a quick synopsis for our own use of what the errors were. I mean, they were mostly software errors and issues. There were some user issues, some entry issues, just, you know, you fat finger a date on accident and it, you know, it can mess up the whole thing. So there are always going to be those elements. Nobody's perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Anybody here to speak on this item?
Ray Tuff, 323 West Fifth. What I just got from that conversation is basically, first I want to tell you, this has nothing to do with the care of the animals. It's not that we have questions about the care of the animals. I personally think that any animal is safe in Forever Home's care. It has nothing to do with the way they care for the animals. But I'm saying this, what is concerned, the concerns are, is that these reports are in the contract. I mean, it's required by your contract, and it has Martha's signature on it, and it has mayor's signature on it, okay? So, and he's directed by the council, correct? So I would expect that the president make sure that those reports are corrected, and our mayor to make sure that they're correct before accepting them. You know, I've used established software before. I don't understand what the reasons behind it is, but I know that, I mean, if you don't enter the stuff as it happens, it doesn't happen. That would be like somebody going home at night after charting on medical stuff. You know, you can't do that. It needs to be done that day. And whether they have the funds to hire somebody to do data entry, somebody needs to be doing the data entry at the end of the day. And because I just heard from that conversation, we have the funds to take in cats from another shelter outside of our city, but we don't have the funds to hire somebody to enter the data correctly so that we can get the reports that are required by the contract. So again, it has nothing to do with the care that Forever Homes gives the animals. We all understand they're in good care. Nobody's questioning that care. But we just want it to be a straight across, clear board that everybody's looking at, you know, and that's all we're asking. Thank you.
Any other additional comments?
Teresa Miranda, 1825 North Keene Avenue, Fremont, Nebraska. I don't know. I've worked all my life, and as I understand this, they are contracted by the city, and they get pretty good money to do this. So they are your guys' employee. Martha is an employee because she is getting paid. They're called staff, employee, however you want to name it. But like I said, I'm in the medical field. If we don't chart the care that we did on these elderly people, it didn't happen, we don't get paid. It's as plain as simple. They can use any kind of Microsoft that they want. It's just a bunch of babbling and backstepping to not make this correct. It needs to be corrected. We need to know. We pay taxes. We pay a lot for animal care. And in your contract, it says they do these reports and they have to be, I have to answer to the state on medical. If I don't, I don't have the microwave and I don't have the staff, so sorry, you're gonna have to wait 2 months. You think the state wouldn't pull my license? They sure would. Dot your T's or dot your I's and cross your T's. Know what's happening with the money that you are providing to them. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Red River 2318 East Fifth Street. Didn't particularly plan to speak to this tonight directly, but I thought maybe I could add a couple of things relative to what I've been listening to. Because the reporting that's going on relative to the sheltering operation, I can appreciate how much work that is. Quite honestly, I appreciate a lot of the detail that are in the reports, and I don't profess to understand all of that either, but I know that Forever Home is providing far more detail in their sheltering operation than we used to get, and they should be given credit for that. Whether there could be other things added that would help improve that. There are probably some specifics that are necessary with regards to what the contract requires, but I think they're probably in some areas providing beyond that. But there may be some other things that could be in there that would be useful to this council, having sat where you used to sit. Things have changed since I was on council. There's now a participation, I believe, on some of the medical expenses that wasn't there in the past. Their reports contain some of that information with regards to animal treatment and having to have veterinary care and the like as a part of what they're reporting. So those are important statistics for you, I think, to understand, because you do approve their budget every year for what you're willing to pay for the services that they provide. And so I think, knowing how long animals have been in care, whether they're in the facility or whether they're in foster care or, someplace else, the reports contain that information, and what they're providing is helpful, I think, for that purpose. But I think it should be important to you on behalf of the people of Fremont to know that the animals are getting proper in and out treatment and they're not spending their lives in captivity. That's not our goal as a city when animals are turned in. Citizens of Fremont need the capability to surrender animals as a part of the city's obligation to the residents of Fremont. And so that needs to be a priority, and that kind of information is shown in the reports. I think that's helpful to you. And so I think what I've been hearing is a lot of good things in the reports. Sometimes they don't balance. That may be a software glitch. I don't know why there's not something that allows you to put in pending transactions or something like that, but I don't know anything about their software. If that were allowed, or you could enter the date that you're actually working with rather than today's date because it's mandated by the program, it would make reconciliations easier. It does kind of seem like it's a math problem. So many in facility, so many in foster care, and so many new intakes, and so many returned or transferred or whatever. But obviously it's much more complex than that, listening to Martha's presentation and looking at the reports and all the work that went back in reconciling these. I'm thankful that the city and Forever Home looked into this and that they're trying to do a better job to reconcile the reports. And it would be great if there's input from the public as to other kinds of things that they might like to see, or that the city maybe should consider seeing, because you are responsible for the care of animals in this city. If there's other information that you'd like to know that needs to be in that report that they're not providing, then maybe that could be expanded. Again, it may be dictated by what's in the software program that they used, and I'm not privy to that at this time. But I do think that they need to give some credit for what they've been doing. I think the citizens that are concerned about making sure we account for the animals and that you are accountable to the citizens is also important for the discussion. I'm glad we had this discussion item on the agenda tonight. I hope you found it to be useful in the sense that it's more than just receiving a report. You need to look at it as more than receiving a report. If you don't understand the reports, you should make an effort to understand them, because I don't know how you can budget, set contracts, and all of those kinds of things if you don't understand the animal problems in this town. And whether it's dogs running at large or cat feral populations or the like, you need to understand all of that in order to be the effective administrator of animal control and shelter. That all used to be in one facility. Now we've broken it into two parts, and it ought to be working differently and probably more efficiently with what we've set up, I guess. That was the plan. I don't know if you can tell all that from the reports you get, because you're only getting the sheltering side. The other reports would have to come from police and dispatch. Thank you.
Anybody else here to speak on this item? Okay, any additional discussion from the city council on this? Councilman Von Baer.
I'd just like to thank Jody and Martha. It's pretty obvious that as we looked at it in our amateur status, that this is not an easy topic. So appreciate your patience. It's something that we probably just need to work at, and you probably are going to have some patience tutoring the rest of us. But thanks for what you've done. There's been a lot of improvement, and we just appreciate your efforts.
Councilwoman Ganem.
I would like to echo our thanks to Forever Homes and certainly our staff that have been working to try to make it better or work easier. And the approach has been, okay, let's work on it to make it better or to eliminate problems. I'd almost be afraid to ask, and I have visited Forever Homes. We did a tour and visitation. I'd almost be afraid to ask of how much it would really cost us, because I'm sure it seemed to me that we're getting a good deal actually, and they're spending more money on caring for the animals that we sometimes put in there.
Any other discussion from the council? All right, no other discussion on that item. We'll go ahead and move on to item 15, which is an executive session for a strategy with respect to real estate matters and negotiations. So I would take a motion to go into executive session. Councilman Jensen?
I move to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing real estate matters and negotiations, and for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest.
Councilwoman Ganem?
I second the motion.
A motion has been made and seconded to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing real estate matters and negotiations, and for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest. Is there any discussion? Pending motion is to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing real estate matters and negotiations, and for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest. Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
The motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing real estate matters and negotiations, and for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest has been approved. Discussion will be limited to discussing real estate matters and negotiations. No official actions or votes will be taken during the executive session. We'll now move to the back conference room.
That's not much. Yeah, no worries. That's the bar.
Good job.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Teresa.
Right.
Where?
Yes.
I don't like you anymore. Why? Because you wouldn't do the story on me.
Yeah,
It's a wonderful story. It's a
right.
wonderful-
I kind of explained that over the time, and I've gotten a lot of guff from Kathy. You know, there's a lot that goes into those things, and if we're gonna write about it at the time the case was pending, you know, we have to include all the sides, include them, try to get the police aside, you know, so at the end of the day, the editor made a decision not to do anything on it. Also, I would say we didn't even know about it until after it happened. So you called, I think, the day of the adoption, and like we couldn't cover the actual thing. And so, you know, it is what it is. I mean, it's history now. I get it. Dogs are good stories. You know, people like.
No, it was just a miracle. How much she fought, and we went to jail and were arrested on there.
Right. Yeah.
It was like.
Yeah.
It
opened our eyes for a lot of things. However, I want to thank you. I appreciate you picking up in the arrest warrant on the Hartsville case.
Right.
That was uncalled for and insane.
Right.
That absolutely, I had nothing to do with any of that.
Right.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was called there the day prior, and the only thing that I said was, do you have a warrant to be on the property? That should be specific for anybody, anytime. And I was there, she was there, Kathy Robertson was there, and there wasn't trash going out the windows. There wasn't any smell. But there was still things that I seen that I would have agreed upon, but that wasn't my place, you know?
Yeah, so insinuate she is dangerous to the public, she is scared of the windows.
Right.
Yeah, it's.
And I did a follow-up where, they dropped 17 of the charges, and then I mentioned in the story.
Right.
You guys were upset about that, and tried to follow up on it. They don't really talk to the paper, so. But I'm keeping it, I'm keeping an eye on it. There's stuff that's percolating that I'm working on storing, because I've actually had incidents, personal life, where I have people treating dogs housing and not handled.
I know, and I do those things. I go through those. Reports.
Right.
And I know that you speak up for them in your area out there.
It's not up for everybody.
But.
Well, I try, I'm the only, we have one new guy now, David. He's kind of helping to some extent. But he's also going to focus on it, so.
I take a motion to come out of executive session. Time is 8:20. Councilman Sukram,
Make that motion.
Councilwoman Lathrop, cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0 Mayor.
Councilman Jensen,
Motion to adjourn?
Councilman Horner,
Second.
cast your votes to adjourn, please.
Motion carries 7-0 Mayor.
We're adjourned.